documented. You know, I mean, they're pretty prevalent, and they've been around for 50 plus years. So, I mean, it's definitely a phenomenon that needs to be addressed. It's for real. Um, I mean, it's it's an interesting subject, and they're shrouded in mystery, and a lot of it I think is that people aren't for sure if they are, in fact, even people at all.
Right, depending on the case and who you speak to. You know, I over the weekend I came up with kind of a revelation or an epiphany playing with my cat. And you know when you get out your little laser pointer
Hmm.
and you play with your cat and he chases that dot, and I thought, you know, this subject and most of the ufology field, it's kind of like that. You constantly chase that little red dot, and you'll never fully get it. You'll be close. You'll be right on top of it. You know, that red dot may even touch you, but you can't get the tangible feel of it.
Oh, well, that's why our show's called the Rabbit Hole. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's like you fall into the rabbit hole and you keep on going and going. It seems to be like kind of a bottomless pit. But it doesn't mean that you can't have get some answers along the way, or at least fit more pieces together. Because that's basically what this is. It's like doing a puzzle, and you have to walk away from it, work on another puzzle. Then you come back, you put a couple more pieces on it, and then you walk away, you go to another puzzle, put a couple pieces on that, you get sick of that, you walk away from that, and that's kind of what it is. Eventually you build this big mosaic, and it all kind of starts making sense.
Right. Well, I know with this Men in Black topic, this one's, I mean, it's so strange. The witness accounts, you know, obviously you have, um, you know, the agent, the government agent side of it, where it's, you know, typical. I mean, it's guys in black suits, okay, you know.
They drive black sedans, and
Right, or government plated vehicles and kind of imitate the original Men in Black.
mhm.
So you know, but the dark side of it, or the mysterious side of it, is very strange.
Right. Well, those of you who are not real familiar with Men in Black, if you tuned into the rabbit hole, you probably are somewhat familiar because that's what we do. So basically, what it comes down to is this: the Men in Black are a phenomenon going on for over 50 years. Men in Black are mostly associated with eyewitnesses who report seeing unidentified aerial phenomenon. Usually, within a day or two of the reporting, these guys show up, and also oftentimes they show up before the witness even reports it.
Before they say anything.
Right.
That's what's so
Right.
strange.
And these guys, when they're doing their interrogation, and make no mistake, it is an interrogation. It's not an interview. They'll be like, they will tell the witness play by play what happened and what they saw. And the witness is sitting there going, what the hell? I haven't even told anybody about this.
And sometimes they don't even ask, you know, questions of them. They'll just make statements, bizarre, and leave.
Right.
It's bizarre, man. It's very bizarre.
They are reported as strange-looking men wearing black suits and hats, and are said to be either very short or very tall. Sometimes they are reported to be wearing makeup and wigs. They always drive large black sedans and always claim to work for the government, for one government agency or another. There is always an interrogation by the MIB, followed by unveiled threats and promises of legal prosecution if the witness continues to repeat such things. The MIB always leave as suddenly as they arrive, and there are over 40 documented cases of the MIB. How many, again, have gone unreported? There's some video that James put up at www.facebook.com/deepintotherabbithole. I recommend you go there, go to the site and watch this video. It's pretty good. Shows real Men in Black entering the lobby of this of a building.
Yeah, I think it's a hotel or something.
Yeah, I believe it is a hotel. And the person who sent the video doesn't even want to divulge like where it was or anything like that. But they walked in, rounded everybody up. This was the day after a UFO was reported, cited by one of the employees at the hotel, I believe. They went in there and interrogated everybody, and just left. But that's weird. That was kind of a weird deal, though. I mean, one of the strange things that they said were that they had really, really like amazing blue eyes, and they did not blink, not once. And their faces were hairless, right?
They had that what do they call them? Thyroid eyes, where they're bulging.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of them have what they call thyroid eyes.
Oh,
very hypnotic.
It's Graves. Also, isn't that what it's called? Graves' disease, or something like that, when the eyes bulge.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just glad I don't have it. I'm hard enough to look at it and get my eyes all bulging. But so let's get into some of these theories, James. So let's get into the theories of what the MIB are, because there are several out there. But I found one. Well, I mean, I already knew about this. You probably know about it too. But OSIR, O-S-I-R. I'll get to that in a sec. Pretty interesting stuff. But one theory is that they work for OSIR, which is the Office of Scientific Investigation and Research. OSIR are connected with all things scientific, including the paranormal, supernatural, and metaphysical. They are a department of the government, but they didn't really say which branch. It's not really a military. It's just another alphabet soup, CIA, NSA, DOD. But OSIR is said to have a this is a tough phenomenology division that deals with specifically extraterrestrial life. They also deal with unexplainable events such as crop circles, ancient mysteries, etc. In 1990, OSIR was said to have surfaced a PR division to interact with the public. In 2000, this division was quietly closed down, and nothing has been heard of them since. It's kind of weird. It's like they were, kind of extending the olive branch to the public, going, okay, let's have a little transparency here. And then they tweaked out and said, we're not ready for that yet. Let's not do that. OSIR is said to have powers that supersede all government officials and agencies.
I'm sure when they're looking for UFOs, they're checking every outhouse, hen house, dog house.
Hen house, dog house, whorehouse. Whoa, dude, deja vu. I'm having deja vu right now, so powerful. I swear to God, I dreamt this exact instance like 6 months ago. That's weird. That's another show, ladies and gentlemen. We did
the Matrix.
We did talk about this. I don't know, a handful of shows ago, but that was like super powerful. Almost maybe kind of like dizzy. Weird.
I'm tripping balls, man.
Don't forget a towel. So, kind of weird. Oh man, I'm still tripping out on that. Another theory is that they are, in fact, ETs disguised as men to keep a lid on things while posing as government agents. Again, some of them were reported wearing heavy makeup to make their skin darker. The wig thing, to appear that they have hair. I mean, they have really weird, like, some of them are reported as having weird angular type features. They'll have more of an almond-shaped eye, which are predominantly blue. For some reason, maybe that's the easiest thing for them to do. But their chins are kind of pointed, small mouths. Their skin will appear kind of grayish. So I mean,
very very pale.
Yeah, really pale.
Some of them, they have sort of a vampire feel, because like an energy vampire, I know a lot of them witnesses say they feel very drained emotionally and in their energy after an interrogation from the real so-called Men in Black.
Well, and that kind of correlates and coincides with reptilian thing too, because they kind of reportedly feed off of people's emotions and that kind of thing. So, is there a connection there? I don't know, but it's kind of food for thought. I mean, that's kind of weird. So, some of you out there and you gentle listeners are probably wondering, when was the first encounter? Well, the first documented encounter with an MIB was in 1947 in Maury Island. A flying disc reportedly ejected some debris that would later be recovered by some men. The debris was then loaded onto an Army aircraft that crashed as soon as it took off. Now that is kind of trippy too. It makes you kind of wonder what that was that they loaded on this Army aircraft. And another thing is, it was ejecting debris. Does that sound familiar?
I've seen lots of cases of UFOs dropping.
Right, and my own eyewitness testimony that my wife Melissa and I saw was ejecting some type of, like it looked like molten slag or something. It was definitely ejecting something or dropping something. I don't know if that's just how they operate or if there was an issue, a technical issue. I don't know.
They were probably just emptying the toilets in the craft.
Right. The alien shitter. It's full. So, I don't know, kind of a weird deal. Those of you who want to share an MIB experience, or if you guys have anything you want to comment on, the number here is 360-977-5483. 360-977-LIVE. Share your story with us. And I personally have not had any MIB encounters. I had that one weird thing on the way into the studio here at KouvRadio.com with those government types that were, more or less harassing me. Pulling right up on me, right up next to me, staring at me, and then pulling on right up on my butt, and then taking off as I took my exit off I-5. So
right, which is weird. But going back,
those guys look like nerds. They look like NASA nerds.
Maybe they were.
Right, they might have been. What were you saying?
But like going back to like your first accounts and everything, I know one of the main ones was by a gentleman his name is Albert Bender. He wrote a book and he started what was called the International Flying Saucer Bureau.
Mm-hmm.
And once he started this, I guess in this field, going down this investigations of UFOs and sightings, he started getting harassed and he closed down this bureau instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and he was an independent, right?
Right.
He was not affiliated. He was an absolute. He was just a civilian independent who created his own investigation on this, and they basically shut him down.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what they said to him.
Well, he was an author, and he had a book out, and that raised some eyebrows, apparently.
Well, look at Nick Redfern. I mean, you got one of his books here now, titled The Real Men in Black.
Mm-hmm. Which
I don't know. I wonder if he's had any issues. I'm assuming not.
I haven't heard anything from him, as far as that goes. Dan Aykroyd. He had an encounter with the Men in Black when he was working on, I believe it was a documentary or some sort of show pilot.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the cell phone with Britney Spears,
right?
And
in New York City,
and it had that true Men in Black feel because as quickly as this tall thing came out of the black sedan.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he turned his head and turned back, it was gone. It was vanished. And, Dan claims that there is no way that without seeing the vehicle drive off that quick, Right,
and the way they dress, the manner they dress, they're just wearing picture those of you who might be fans of the show Mad Men. They, back in the 50s, 60s, when everyone was wearing just a black suit, white dress shirt, black tie, it's very just kind of like peripheral, you know what I mean? It's like you don't even notice they're there. Mm-hmm. And they'll wear a hat, usually kind of like a fedora type hat, which is not real typical today's fashion or anything like that, but they seem to, from the 50s on, they continue to dress the same way, which is weird because that's what people are looking for when they're looking for MIB. That's what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When you look for a cop, you look for a guy who's wearing a shirt with a badge on it. He's got a gun belt on.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's weird that they would dress like that.
Well,
you think they would change with the times and
there's
blend in
theories out there that because obviously we have the different versions of the Men in Black. They're some of them are considered clones.
Yeah.
Because of the appearance, they're the exact same. Some of them, we've heard that they're time travelers, some sort of time cops, which is a, pretty out there theory.
Sure is.
But one of the conclusions of that theory is the fact that the black suit can sort of blend in okay within the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s because it still is prevalent.
Right, and the black
society,
sedans, the Lincolns, the Caddies, the Buicks, the big black sedans, they kind of blend in too. They're just there.
Right.
And people still ride around in Lincoln Town cars, chauffeured, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean,
which those are odd themselves with how they look perfect. They're brand new. They never showed dirt on them.
In the plates, because people have gotten plates,
Mm-hmm.
the plates never match up to the vehicle.
Right.
Ever. Ever. So they put these plates on. Maybe they're government plates, maybe they're not. A cop, he's not even going to run it if he sees a government plate. Why would he? Why is he going to randomly run a government plate and go, oh, hey, that's supposed to be on a Jeep somewhere in Maryland?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not going to do that. So it's a brilliant strategy, just kind of blending in.
And they did that on UFO hunters. They ran that plate that those guys...
in the SUV.
And it turned up some forestry Jeep or something.
Right.
Didn't even come close.
So let's talk about the tactics that these men in black do, that these MIBs do. They used certain tactics that on people. I'll give you some examples of these things that have happened, reportedly involved with MIBs. There was a ex-Air Force man who was gassed and interrogated by MIB after he learned some NASA secrets. They gassed him and interrogated him and basically changed his mind for him. There was a teenager who had some close-up photos. Yeah, close-up photos of UFOs were seized from a teenager who was then threatened by MIBs. MIBs sighted in the lobby of the U.S. State Department, and they leave a mysterious artifact behind that disappeared before everybody's eyes.
Wow. It
just disappeared in front of all these different witnesses. MIB poses Air Force officers to silence witnesses. MIB, this is a good one. An MIB disintegrates a coin in a witness's hand and tells this witness that his heart can do the same thing. You know, you're sitting there and you got a coin in your hand, and MIB touches it and it disintegrates, and he tells you that same thing could happen to your heart. That's probably going to shut you up.
Well,
that'd be pretty convincing for me.
It would definitely make you crap your pants.
Right. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I'd punch him or run. One of the two. Maybe a little bit of both. Then I'd crap my pants later. The vehicle plates, again, can never be ID'd correctly. When these guys show up, it is always nefarious. There's never, the people don't walk away like there was any good intention behind these individuals. And they're scared. I mean, they're scared. This is different than, say, 1947 July, Roswell, when they went to the nurse and threatened her. Those were actual government people. Those were like Army personnel and that kind of thing.
Which to that point, they usually come in threes, and it seems that there's one from each division, like one Air Force, one Army, one
NSA, one CIA,
one
yeah.
FBI, or
they use the alphabet soup acronyms out there. They throw those around a lot. And you just recently watched a video of a gal who was interrogated, right? And one person showed ID and the other one showed ID, and there was some kind of problem with the identification, wasn't there?
Yeah, this gal was an activist, and she, did peace protests in places, and these people came to her door, wanted to ask some stupid-ass questions. One flashed a badge. It had the typical blue FBI stamp on it. The other one didn't. She actually grabbed her camera. Was smart. Grabbed her camera. She didn't let him in. She grabbed her video camera, filmed the whole thing, zoomed in on one, and then we caught a glimpse of the eye shift.
That was on the female agent.
One,
her
right.
eyes shifted. What James is referring to, those of you who tuned in week before last, the reptilians, 3 weeks ago maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, 2 or 3
Time
weeks
flies
ago.
by in the rabbit hole.
There is no time.
Right, it kind of stops. But we did an episode on the reptilians and the reptilian agenda, and the eye shift James is referring to is, you can watch YouTube and see all this stuff, and a lot of it's BS. But there are some out there that make you really wonder. You'll look at their pupils, and the pupils will, elongate, which, people don't do that.
Which, there's no verification that these people are actually reptilian. It could be some other species of alien or something else we don't know about. But when you see the eye shift, it's considered the reptilian shapeshifter,
Right.
in quotes.
Again, it's the Rabbit Hole, ladies and gentlemen, at KouvRadio.com. Give us a call at 360-977-5483, 360-977-LIVE, and give us some of your input. Yeah, a lot of these tactics they use are really heavy-handed. You know, some people have been said, you know, they'll be picking your bones out of the desert. They'll never know what happened to you. Or sometimes they're a little more inconspicuous, or they'll be like, well, saw that your kid goes to such and such elementary school, and the bus stop is right around the corner, and you know what I mean.
They seem to know quite a bit,
right?
Depending on which version you're speaking about.
Right, and it's like, you know, that alone will make a lot of people shut up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you heard about that one case with the shorter. It was about 5 foot tall, maybe a little bit taller because it was wearing
Prince shoes.
Like, yeah, had some
platforms.
Had some like raised up soles on its shoes, and it was very odd. And it basically was asking her about UFOs, and kept. She was describing it and had her notes, and she was, you know, asked if you were told to stop talking about this, what would you do? She basically said, tell them to go to hell.
Yeah.
But this small one was focused on her pin. It was odd, and she said, would you like the pin? The MIB grabbed the pin and just took off.
Just walked away with it?
Kind of with a shrill laughter. Very odd.
Dude, there's been some really weird, odd reports. In the 1970s, there was a report of an MIB who came to investigate somebody at their house. And there were two of them, but one of them stayed out in the front yard. This is weird shit. Now, listen to this. One came in and interrogated her. Well, she wouldn't let him in, but interrogated her at the door, the door jamb there, right there. She wouldn't let him in. But the other one stayed out in the front yard and was whistling to birds in the trees. Yeah, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it wasn't like any whistling she had ever heard. It was like, I didn't know people could produce that type of sound. And the birds were responding back. And as she's standing there, all these more birds kept on congregating in on this tree. And this MIB's down there whistling to the friggin' birds.
See, it just...
What the hell? That doesn't make any sense at all.
It seems very... I guess if you wanted to put that title to it, alien.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because...
by definition.
It's... whether they're wearing some sort of costume to cover up their identity, that would be my guess of it. You know, theoretically, especially
right.
with the pale face and the way they look the same, it could be some type of mask that they can put on.
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into MIB appearance. They have pale grayish skin, mostly blonde hair. Oftentimes it's an obvious wig. Again, they are very tall or very short. They arrive in groups of 2 or 3. They speak in dull, monotonous tones. They have high cheekbones, thin lips, eyes are often larger than normal, slightly almond-shaped, and they do not seem to blink.
One more thing. There's been reports that some of them actually have tentacles coming out of their feet.
What?
Strange black tubes coming out of their feet.
Tubes or tentacles?
Tentacle
like
type tubes.
That are biological? They're not like plastic tubes?
Well, they've been seen that they move and they will absorb back into the shoe.
Well, that's very Will Smith.
It is.
That is very...
But this was reported, I believe, in Russia with a eyewitness report.
You know they drink a lot of vodka there.
And have a lot of Smirnoffs.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Talk about polar bears and shit.
I don't know. I mean, the fact that they do not blink, they usually lack any type of facial hair. And they arrive in groups of 2 or more, like we said. Now, in that video, if you go to facebook.com/deepintotherabbithole, you'll see that little link we have there. These 2 gentlemen that walk into this lobby, and it's caught on a lobby surveillance video, a live feed. Well, they look identical.
Mm-hmm.
You could not tell these guys apart. And that's another thing, and it's a brilliant tactic as well, is that they're the same height, same weight, and dressed exactly alike. That's brilliant if you think about it. Well, which one did you see? Well, I saw a guy who looked like this. You know what I mean? And they all look exactly the same. And if they show up, they're either going to be very tall or going to be very short. Even if they're very short, they look identical in every way.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean...
Well, and there's been MIB reports showing up after Bigfoot sightings.
I've never heard of that.
There was a Bigfoot sighting, and a gal reported it. She took a picture of it.
Of the Bigfoot?
Of the Bigfoot. And
I guess she doesn't have it anymore.
The MIB confiscated it, covered up the footprint that was there, and took off. This one seemed very government agent to me, but it pulled out a power cable from the the reader box, and it was messing around in some sort of pile of debris, and she snapped a picture of it. And she reported it to a friend, and next thing she knows, somebody pulls up in an old car and asks her questions. She shows him the picture. He takes it. She had a hair sample. He confiscated the hair sample.
Would he forcefully just grab this stuff from her?
Well, she showed it to him willingly and then just took it, and then he ran off after he covered up the footprint, got in his car, and sped away.
Asshole. I hate that.
Well, it's just, bizarre. I mean, a Bigfoot sighting? What?
I know, and we're getting into that whole government Bigfoot / UFO, and
now it even gets weirder. Is that there's been MIB reports with the Mothman sightings.
Really? Never heard of that either.
Yeah, actually, the guy Keel, Mr. Keel, who wrote the book Mothman Prophecies, had a visit from the Men in Black.
Interesting. And what he's talking about, he's referring to Pleasant Point, where I believe it was in the 1960s. It was the 60s when that bridge collapsed.
Right.
And preceding this bridge collapse, people were reporting sighting a large bipedal winged creature that kind of, roughly resembled a giant moth. So they started calling them the Mothman. And interesting. I've never heard of that. Well, and that just kind of goes back to that OSER, that Office of Scientific Investigation and Research Division. It says right here that they are connected with all things scientific, including paranormal, supernatural, and metaphysical. I mean, that would kind of fall. That, to me, makes more sense. I'm not going to negate the fact that there could be a possibility of an extraterrestrial presence involved in there. But, that would make sense. And another thing is you were talking about clones. There's reports of that these Men in Black are actually, they're called Type 2 humans. And allegedly they are manufactured out of Dulce.
Right.
And a couple of other large bases, underground bases. Again, you guys bear with us because this is crazy stuff. But it comes with documentation. It comes with countless hours of research.
Well, it's the laser pointer again.
Right.
You're not looking at the source of it. You're seeing the illusion, the dot.
You don't see who's holding the laser pointer.
Right. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain.
It is. It is. And James and I have said this for years, doing this type of stuff, is that more often than not, the truth is stranger than fiction. And it is so true, you guys. Because there's stuff that we talk about on this show on a regular basis that, even being involved in this genre for, decades, just a few years ago, I was like, yeah, come on, man. But when you dive in and you really start doing research and you hear it from these credible sources, you got to step back and go, gosh, maybe there's something to this.
Well, here's an interesting thing, too, is that way back when Eisenhower was president, he started a investigation on the Men in Black. They didn't know who they were.
Yeah, well, I guess that was more Truman, but Truman, he's considered the alien president. He allegedly met with some of the Greys. They had a meeting and stuff like that, and even world famous astronauts such as Gordon Cooper alluded to that. In fact, did happen. I mean, he was like, hey, that did happen. So, and when you hear it from an astronaut, man, it's hard to. How do you discredit an astronaut? They're some of the most credible people in the world. You know what I mean? They're qualified. These are guys who go up in these little tiny boxes and orbit the planet. They've orbited the moon. These people have landed on the moon, and so they're very capable, super highly intelligent people, outside the box thinkers, if you will. And they report an awful lot of things, and they're hushed up as well. I would imagine the MIBs were there at Cape Canaveral, debriefing these guys. I mean, it's a crazy phenomenon. We're going to take a break in about 15 minutes. Those of you who want to call in, we strongly urge you to. 360-977-5483, 360-977-LIVE. If you have an MIB story, or if you have a sighting you want to report, you have a platform, and we are in a non-judgmental atmosphere here. I mean, we have seen some crazy stuff ourselves, and we've talked about it here on the show, and we're not going to judge you. If you have any opinions, bring them on, man. Let's hear them. So, have you ever heard of any MIB activity here in the Pacific Northwest?
I haven't personally, no.
Neither have I. And I've wondered why that is. Because they consider the I-5 corridor kind of the ET highway. There's so many, if you from Vancouver, BC, all the way down to San Diego, founded by the Germans.
Means whale's vagina.
Movie quotes, people. That's what we do. But it's kind of considered the ET highway. So it's kind of weird that we don't hear about that a whole lot up here.
Right.
Everything's always East Coast, it seems like, or Southwest.
Doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
Right.
I've heard. The only thing close that I've heard, Clyde Lewis, he had somebody go into his place, get on his computer, and actually leave a pair of sunglasses behind.
Were they the kind that protect you from the flashing light that erases your memory?
It could have been.
So I would definitely like to try that. Or maybe they're the ones from the movie They Live.
Damn, I make this look good.
Well, was that when he was at the studio he's at now? Or was this like years ago?
Whatever apartment he was at or something. It was a while when I heard him talking about it, but...
Yeah. Well, James and I have been tapped. Our conversations have definitely been tapped. And again, we're just little small-time dudes, but we've been tapped. We've heard other people's voices and stuff and say things that, kind of keywords that we keyed in on. We've even heard maniacal laughter and like a demonic type of voice on the phone.
Kind of weird.
Oh, dude.
But that goes to some of the witness testimony as well, where they hear, they've heard them speak kind of metallic-like.
Right. Almost robotic.
Right, very robotic.
And that goes right back to maybe they're the Type 2 humans, I guess there's Type 2, Type 3 humans. The Type 2s are considered almost humans.
Well, even some of the abductees, alien contactees, when they get telepathy in their head, it has that tone, that monotone radio.
Well, Stan Romanek, what's Audrey? Is the name, I believe, of the voice that calls and leaves messages.
Right, yeah, that's what they tagged her as Audrey.
Yeah.
Yeah, which has that sort of robotic, almost like if you were typing or having a computer read back what you were...
And we're not talking about like the, what's that guy's name? Stephen Hawking type of voice.
Right.
It's more human, it's more kind of